Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And I had some comments after my last growth comparison video asking how my plants grow so quickly. So I thought I would walk you through kind of like a general what I do for most of my plants. I've got quite a few things that I want to be getting on with this morning, so it'll be kind of like a repot and chat type thing. But yeah, I really hope it's useful. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So I think the first one that I'm going to start with is my variegated euphorbia, just because she is screaming out for a repot. She's been needing doing for ages. She's got very, very, very big, and I really want to encourage her to branch a little bit more like she started to do there. And I know that for that, she's going to need a bigger pot. Sorry, I'm filming this video at 7 o'clock in the morning because the room gets very, very warm, and Yoli also woke me up at about 1 o'clock and I haven't been back to sleep, so I'm very sleepy. Put the camera down. So I don't have gloves, but I have heard, I think one of you actually commented this, that brown paper is meant to be a good way to handle this plant, and I don't know if I believe it, but I'm gonna have to try it because I don't have anything else. Ah, success, I think. Oh, ouch. No, not success. So some general things to keep your plants happy. I would say, so the first thing, and again, this is probably completely obvious, but the first thing is when you get a new plant, always make sure you research that plant. Like I still, to this day, if I get a plant that I haven't had before, or if I'm not that familiar with it, I will always get my laptop out, I will get on YouTube or something like that, and I will find somebody that's owned the plant for a while, knows it really well, and can just kind of give me a little bit of guidance. I personally always do that as opposed to things like Google and stuff like that, because a lot of the time it can be really generic, not that accurate, and I just always find it so much more interesting, and the information always goes in more if I'm actually hearing from a person that's owned that plant, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is super, super, super important, because obviously different plants have different care requirements sometimes as well. And I think I can sometimes get a bit cocky with it nowadays, and I'll get a plant and I'll be like, oh, I feel like this plant will like that, and I'm totally wrong. So I think a lot of the time you do just need to be like, right, I will take the time to learn about this plant so that my plant care routine is just going to be a lot easier. Whoa, what did I just do? Did I just rip my potting mat? I have a feeling the spikes might have just ripped the potting mat. This is a struggle. But yeah, with any research that you do, I always just kind of take everything with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Like I will listen to the things such as, this plant likes its soil to completely dry out before waterings, this plant likes it to remain evenly moist, like all of that stuff I will really, really listen to. But a lot of the time it really just comes from getting to know your plants, getting to kind of build a relationship with it and figure it out as you go. But in terms of lighting, so I've lived in many, many different places over the years with plants, some of which have had really amazing lights, like for example this room has great lights, others that have had pretty much no light at all. And obviously it does come down to the individual plant, and again, this is why I say research is so important. It does come down to the individual plant and what it likes and doesn't like. But as kind of like a general rule, I would say bright indirect light and pretty long hours of it are the best for tropical plants. And I think that's why, I mean, I know we are in growing season at the moment, but at this time of year, my tropical plants in here are just going absolutely crazy, because this room gets pretty much bright light all day. It's north facing, but it's got a really nice balance of light, and it gets gentle evening light as well, which these plants really like. I don't mean direct sun, because I'd say again the majority of my plants will burn in direct sun, but if you can just up their light intake and the hours of light they get as well, that is going to do absolutely amazing things for them. You can obviously use grow lights if you don't have a space that's got lots of natural light. I use quite a few different types of grow lights, but my favorite ones are the mother grow lights that I've spoken about before, and I use them downstairs in my basement bedroom as well, which again is north facing and really doesn't get much natural light at all. So yeah, grow lights are definitely a good option. You can get so many lovely ones. I know Soltech also have some really nice kind of like pendant lights and stuff like that. So if you don't have great natural lights, then again, depending on what your plant likes, I would 100% recommend investing in some decent grow lights. The thing that I've really, really noticed in my other places, like the ones that haven't had great light when I've been living there, is that even if my plants are kind of surviving, their growth is usually a lot slower. Like I spoke about it actually the other day, my Anthurium clarinervium up there didn't give me any new growth for the whole time I lived at my last place. Even though she looked healthy, she just stopped growing. And now she's giving me like a new leaf a month, which is pretty good considering she's kind of known as a slow growing plant. But even if you do have a space that's quite light, quite bright, it's a really good idea to make sure you're keeping your windows clean, just because if you let dust and dirt build up on your windows from the outside or the inside, then it essentially kind of like acts as a shield and it stops your plants from absorbing all the light they need. And again, it works the other way around as well. It's a really good idea to make sure your plants' leaves are kept clean. Like with pretty much all of my plants, I try to do it every time I water. I don't always do this. I would say maybe like once every couple of weeks I'll go around with either a microfiber cloth, a damp sponge. For my velvety leaf plants that don't like being wiped, I'll just go around with a little makeup brush and kind of dust them. But it's just the best possible way to make sure that obviously your plants are staying looking happy and healthy, but also able to absorb all the light that they need. The other thing that I've spoken about before is that if you've got a window that gets really bright sunlight to the point that you're worried that it might scorch some of your plants, is I just get a bit of bubble wrap and I'll spray it with water, and then you can literally just push it up against your window and it'll stick. And firstly, it kind of helps to insulate that window. So for example, over the winter months, if it's quite cold and you're worried about your plants getting too cold, it can help to keep them warm. But also, as I say, over the hotter summer months, it can also act as a little filter and stop them from getting burnt. It's so funny though how different plants respond to light. Like I brought my calatheas from downstairs up here to water the other day, and they were only in this room for about 15 minutes, and I came back in and literally all of their leaves had just curled up because they were like, too bright. They tend to tell you pretty quickly if they're not happy, but it's just a really good idea to monitor your plants. And if they are really sensitive and can't take a lot of light, then don't try and push it. Don't try and train them into it or anything like that. I've heard about people trying to kind of convert low light plants to high light plants through just like adjusting their environment gradually. And I think that's ridiculous. I don't think that's going to work. The other thing with light is the amount of hours they receive of it, because obviously over the winter months growth starts to slow and some plants can go into dormancy. And although that is partly because the light they're receiving isn't quite so intense, it's also because the hours of it tend to be a lot shorter. So for example, I've got a lot of my highlight tropical plants in my cabinet there, and even after the light goes in the evening, I'll quite often leave those grow lights on for a few hours so that they're kind of getting 14 to 16 hours of daylight, which might seem a bit excessive, but they're growing really well. So that's just what I like to do. Right, I feel like I've kind of broken these roots up as much as I can at the moment. I don't know if I'm properly going to be able to show you. Can you see? I know there is still quite a bit of soil on there, but her root system's actually not massive, so I don't want to go too crazy. I was going to put her in this pot. Yeah, I reckon that'll be all right. I reckon that'll be okay. Oh my goodness, so spiky. The other thing that I talk about in a lot of my plant care videos is that if you don't want your plants to just face one way, like for example, this one here looks beautiful and full from there, but you turn it around and it hasn't got a lot of growth on the back because it's just turned to face the light. It's a really good idea to just rotate your plants regularly. Like anytime you think of it really, as soon as you see them starting to lean, then just give them a spin and then they will remain looking really beautiful and kind of have gorgeous 360 growth. I've touched on this already briefly as well, but the thing that really helps in my experience with most plants when it comes to faster and fuller growth is heat, just because most of my plants are tropical plants and they come from a much hotter climate than it is here in the UK, and upping their heats just really helps to kind of kick them into action, get them pushing out some really big growth. And again, in the other places that I've lived in the past, I have noticed that if I've lived somewhere that's got like beautiful light, it's brilliant for plants in that sense, but it is quite cold, my plants' growth has been a lot slower. It's really just about finding the balance though, because I know a lot of people have commented on my videos before saying, oh my goodness, you've got the best room in the world for growing plants in terms of this room. And it can be great, like early spring, it is absolutely amazing. But when it gets to, I mean, this time of year, it's too hot. Like my cabinet got to 46 degrees Celsius yesterday, and I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I'll put that on the screen, but it just gets too hot. And I've got fans running constantly. I've got my humidifier blasting away, and I've got all the windows and doors open as much as I can because it's just way too hot for them. And then again, come winter time, this room gets ridiculously cold and I have to bring radiators in and stuff like that. And again, crank up the humidity because the air gets so dry. So yeah, in terms of light, this room can be great, but it also can be a bit of a struggle. Like I am I'm honestly spending at the moment probably at least an hour a day watering and stuff like that because things are just drying out so quickly. Right, I think she's done and I think she's stable. She will obviously become more stable once I've watered her and she's kind of had a chance to put her roots down a bit, but whoa, there we go. Yeah, oh my God. I really hope she starts branching more now. If anybody knows anything about like notching on these or anything like that, I don't even know if it's possible, but I would love to get her to branch a little bit more and kind of, yeah, more like my other euphorbia that looks like a cowboy cactus. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So fingers crossed that'll do the trick. I will give her a really good water after I've finished this video. Right, and the next one that I want to repot is my string of turtles, my really diddy little string of turtles that is doing really, really well, but I know desperately needs a repot. And because this little pot that I decorated, although it looks just like a little nursery pot, it's actually terracotta. And oh my goodness, they're always such a nightmare to get out of terracotta. They often just don't want to come. And obviously you can't exactly like squidge them or anything. So I'm just gonna have to try and tip her. Oh, I say they're really hard to get out usually. That was the easiest thing in the world. And I know I did get a question recently about repotting string of things. And to be honest, when they're this size, when they are such babies, and as you can see, I mean, you can't even really see the root system. They are so small. I personally don't break up the root system at all. If they're bigger and a little bit more well established, then I will. But with this one, I'm literally just gonna put her straight into, it might be a little bit big. Now, you know what? I'm gonna take the risk. I'm gonna put her in this. So yeah, the next thing that is super important at this time of year, especially, well, I mean, to be honest, I say this time of year, the heat is intense, so it's important at this time of year, but it's also important in winter, is humidity. And if you're really serious about it, I would highly recommend getting a humidifier. Like, there's nothing that can replace a humidifier. There are other things you can do to help, but having a humidifier is just, it's the best thing in the world. And I say I don't know what I'd do without mine. Mine actually broke recently. I've just literally got another one. It only arrived yesterday, but my big kind of industrial humidifier broke and I didn't know what to do. The humidity in this room dropped to like 26% and I was like, oh my goodness, and it was so warm. I completely forgot to say when I was filming this, but in the time that my humidifier was broken, in order to keep the humidity up, I used pebble trays, which are basically just little trays that sit underneath your plant pot, filled with water. They evaporate and keep your plants happy. I boiled lots of kettles, left pots of boiling water around, and on the days that it was really warm, I left my laundry in there to air dry as well. And again, when the moisture evaporates, it creates humidity in the air, and that helped to keep them happy. And misting, I misted a lot. But I use a few different types of humidifiers, but if you're just going to invest in one, then I'd personally recommend a Levoit humidifier. I've used them for years and I've got on so well with them. I know I said that my other one broke, but I think that's totally my own fault. I tried rewiring something and I think I probably did it wrong. And then I left the humidifier sat full of water for a few weeks and it, yeah, didn't do well. But on the whole, I would say a Levoit humidifier is amazing. There's loads of good ones out there, to be honest, but that's just the one that I like to use. And if you don't have enough humidity, a lot of the time you'll just notice your plants' leaves kind of not looking as conditioned and kind of healthy and shiny as they could be if they have more humidity. And things like browning tips and cracking leaves and all that sort of stuff are far more likely to happen. I know, again, certain types of plants like really high humidity, others can cope better in lower, but on the whole, I try and keep the humidity as high as possible, and pretty much all of my plants love it. So I try and keep the humidity in here at the moment at about 60 to 70%, sometimes a bit higher. In the mornings, it's often a lot higher, and my cabinet is currently at 82%, so that is obviously a lot higher, but I have got a little humidifier in there that runs and just kind of contains the humidity. And also, on that note as well, I was going to say, in my cabinet, I've also got a fan, and I've got a fan in this room as well, because air circulation is so important for plants. It just, especially if we've got a humidifier running, it prevents things like mildew and mold building up, and it just allows the air to circulate, the humidity to circulate through your plants and keeps them happy. Right, that one is done. And again, I will give it a good water after I've finished this video. My Pilea, so come here. So this one, the wonky one that I showed you, this one is giving me so many pups at the moment. And I know I have been through stem propagation of Pilea before, Pilea peperomioides. And today I think I am going to take some of the pups out and pot them up because there's a lot of them now and I would like to try and make some new plants. You don't actually have to take the plants out of the pot to do this. You can just do it from in the pots, but I kind of want to have a look at the roots because I don't know if you guys watch my other videos, then you'll have seen that a little while ago. Whoa, I repotted this one and I took netting off from around its roots and it had a pretty much non-existent root system. It was so small. I'll put a clip in so you can see, but as you can see, since I've done that, and that was only, I think that was only a month ago or something, but the growth has really matured. So yeah, another note there. If you notice a plant is not growing, if it's looking a bit dormant and you're doing everything right, then I would definitely recommend checking the roots and making sure that there's no netting on there because it's evil stuff. It really is. And I just don't know why they do it because so often it means that your plants can't spread their roots properly and so their growth will be a lot smaller. It won't be as healthy and they just won't be able to grow as quickly. So that is definitely something worth checking. A lot of you have asked about misting in the past as well and whether or not it's a good idea. And I do mist my plants. I have always misted my plants. I really like misting them. I always feel like if I've done all the watering and I want to kind of do some plant care stuff, it's a good way to make sure you don't overwater. And although it's not a long-term fix for humidity, it's really good at keeping the leaves clean, keeping them conditioned, helping to ward off any pests, particularly things like spider mites that really do not like the damp. And some types of plants, for example, Hoyas are one, can actually absorb moisture through their leaves as well. So I know some people say you shouldn't mist Hoyas. I always mist my Hoyas and my Hoyas seem happy. So I'm gonna keep doing it. So with the Pilea, when you divide the pups from the mother plant, if you, can you see there's too many leaves? There we go. If you look in the soil, you can just kind of see that bit where it's attached there. I'm literally just gonna chop it there and it might have a little root system on it. I don't know how well established it is, but we will see. So yeah, there we go. As you can see, this one does have quite a nice little root system on it already, but I'm just going to pop that to one side, take a couple more of them and then just pop them up in soil. Yeah, look at that. That's so gorgeous. Future Claire popping in. I've just finished filming this video and realised that I have left the little Pilea babies there and I haven't potted them up. I said this at the end of the video, but I got a very bad night's sleep last night. You only got me up at 1 in the morning and yeah, I didn't get back to sleep. So I am pretty knackered, and I need to go and do some work in a minute and take her out for a walk and continue my day. And all I want to do is sleep. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying this video so far. I can't believe I forgot to do that. I'm such a numpty. There we go. So that's actually a really mature one. I mean, I should have probably potted that up a while ago, but so cute. And then I might do these ones in smaller pots. I have actually got a couple of little ones that I decorated a while ago, so I might do them in there. This is all off topic now. I feel like I can't talk about anything that I was going to speak about in the rest of this video because I might have already spoken about it. But how are you all doing? Are you having a lovely week? Are you enjoying the sunshine if you're in the UK? How are you all finding it with your plants as well? Is it as much of a struggle as it is for me here? One of the things I didn't include in this video is actually a tip for warmer weather with plants, and this came from someone on my Patreon, and they basically just said they live in a really hot country and they are constantly battling the heat, and if you don't have a cooling system or something like that, then getting like a bucket of icy water and leaving it in front of your fan can help to just kind of spread it throughout the room, which I thought was a really good idea. I've been doing it every day. I don't know how much it's been cooling down this ridiculously warm room, but I think it's probably helped. So yeah. There we go. Right, okay, job done. On with the rest of the video. And I should really stake my Pilea just so that she's a bit more upright. Maybe I will do that now as well. I'm trying to think where I got to when I was talking about plant care stuff. Watering and fertilizing is obviously very important. Again, in terms of researching your plants, different types of plants will require different amounts of water. And I've said it before, but I don't stick to any kind of schedule with my plants. I'll literally just monitor the soil. So for example, if I know that one plant likes its soil to dry out slightly or the top inch to dry out, then I will go off that as opposed to anything else, which does mean obviously just keeping a really close eye on your plants. And I mean, honestly, my eyes are constantly on my plants. Like, even if I've got a really, really, really busy day, I will always set my alarm super early, which I know is probably quite sad, but my plant care is like my self-care, so I always try and make time for it. But yeah, I'll set my alarm early, I'll get up, I'll come through, and I will just monitor all my plants, stick my finger in the soil, make sure they're all good, see if anything needs doing, and then, yeah, touch wood. I mean, I'm talking as if I never have plant issues, and I do. Like, there's constantly things going on with my plants, and it's just part of having them. It's just what happens. But on the whole, I would say, on the whole, they're fairly healthy at the moment. This is ridiculously fiddly. Also, something that I'll do pretty much all year round, if I possibly can, is I'll use fish tank water sometimes to water my plants. And my mum's got goldfish, so it's pretty easily accessible to me. I've heard of people just going to garden centres that have a fish section in them and asking for it before as well, if you want to get hold of it. But it's just a really kind of natural, diluted fertiliser that isn't going to harm your plants, and they absolutely love it. Like, if you just want to give them a little nutrients boost, it is honestly such good stuff. And then So fertilizer, this is something that I've actually slightly changed my opinion on recently. So over the growing season, it is a really good idea. I'm just kind of reciting now. Over the growing season, it's a really good idea to use a high quality fertilizer. I personally use Liquid Gold Leaf, this stuff here, not sponsored. I just love this stuff. I think it's amazing. And that just helps to kind of support your plants, encourage as much new healthy growth as possible. And up until very recently, I always believed that over the winter months you should completely stop fertilizing. And I actually, and this is the first time I'm speaking about it, but I actually did an experiment this winter, and I got 2 pothos plants, literally identical, kept them in the exact same conditions, next to each other, same light, same heat, literally everything exactly the same. And I fertilized one and I didn't fertilize the other, just because I was like, is it a good idea? Is it not? And the one that I fertilised has grown so much better. I was going to say as well, both of them were cuttings from the same mother plant, so they had exactly the same genes. So I would now say, if your plant is actively growing, then it's a good idea to fertilise it whenever, whether it's spring, summer, autumn, winter. But just don't force fertiliser on your plants over the winter months if they're not growing, because as I say, this can lead to issues. And the thing that I really like about Liquid Gold Leaf, which is the fertiliser I use, is that it's really, really hard to over fertilise. Like, I've never had issues with going overboard. I don't even really measure it anymore. I just free pour it in, and all of my plants are, most of them are really, really happy. All of them are producing really gorgeous new growth. And I put it down to obviously a combination of things, but that fertilizer has definitely helped to kick things into action. So yeah, using a high quality fertilizer is a very good idea. Right, she's not completely upright, but she's more upright than she was before. And I just don't want to force her anymore for the time being, because I don't want her to snap, but I'm hoping that now she should be a little bit more vertical in her growth. But yeah, I feel like that's pretty much the gist of everything. I mean, I've said it before, but the best way that I have found to increase faster growth of my plants is more heat, more light, more humidity, good fertilizer, all that sort of stuff. But also things like pest checking are so important. I pest check my plants every single time I water them, like very, very, very thoroughly. I personally bring all of my plants over to me to water. I've got a washing up bowl and I will water them all through, put them on my potting mat with a towel on them so that they can drain, and then I'll put them back in their spots. I know some people go around and water their plants in situ, and that's definitely quicker, but I just like to use it as an opportunity to kind of give my plants a really thorough check over. Like, you can actually see on that leaf there, that's got some damage on it. Can you see? That was from aphids, and I found aphids on this plant about 4 weeks ago, and because I caught them really, really quickly, I was able to treat the plant right away, and now it is, touch wood, fine, and all of the other ones around it are also fine. So yeah, I really like doing it that way. It's just a really good way to stay on top of your plant care. I also just, as I say, I really enjoy doing it that way, because I feel like I get to kind of really check over my plants, get to know them a bit better, and I just find it really fun. So yeah, that's how I like to do it. But apart from that, and this probably completely contradicts what I've just said, the only other thing that I would say is don't faff with your plants too much. And now hearing myself say that, I probably do faff with my plants too much. But what I mean is, don't pick them up, move them about, put them in different spaces too much, because they will go, like when they have to adjust to a new environment, it always kind of takes them a little while to get back into their rhythm again. Hence why it's often suggested when you bring plants home from a garden centre or something like that to just kind of leave them for a few days to get used to their new environment. So yeah, if you can possibly not move your plants here, there, everywhere, different spaces, put them through too much trauma, then I would highly recommend it. But yeah, I really hope that this video was useful. If it was, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.